If I could describe the Get My Life tour in one word, it would be vulnerability. Showing up for yourself is so important. Welcome to the Get My Life tour. I'm your host, Lydia T. Blanco. Welcome to the Get My Life tour. I'm your host, Lydia, and I'm excited about today's stop on the tour. If you didn't know, I am a beauty and hair enthusiast. Fun fact, I binge watch videos of beauty and hair tutorials on YouTube on a regular basis, and I love supporting Black-owned beauty brands. But what I'm even more enthusiastic about are the Black women behind the brands and one of them just so happens to be Miss Jessie's. Founded by sisters Miko and Titi Branch, Miss Jessie's products took the curly hair market by storm in 2004. And today, I have the honor of taking center stage with Miko Branch, co-founder and CEO of Miss Jessie's, the beloved brand by naturalistas all over. But before I go any further, let me give her the proper introduction, aka her bio. Under the guidance of her African-American father, Miko Branch was raised to be an entrepreneur. Influenced by her Japanese mother and fascinated with her childhood beauty idols, Cher, Donna Summer, and Shaka Khan, Miko learned to appreciate and pay close attention to everything that was beautiful. As she grew, she merged her love of beauty with her entrepreneurial spirit, and in more than 2 decades, she opened the now famous Miss Jessie's hair salon together with her sister Titi. Thereafter, circumstances and fate intervened and transformed Miko from a successful stylist to a style innovator and tastemaker. Miko and Titi revolutionized and revitalized the entire hair care market by being the first to develop organic and original groundbreaking hair products designed to enhance and enrich every type of textured curly hair for people of every ethnic background. They named the product line after their do-it-yourself and fiercely independent paternal grandmother, Miss Jessie. Over 2 decades later, Miko is the sole owner of Miss Jessie's, operates 2 salons, and educates women on business and entrepreneurship nationwide while raising her son and running a beauty empire. Miko, you are exceptional.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you so much.
You are. I'm like reading this, and if it sounds like a lot, it is because it is. And I'm so excited to have you join us on the Get My Life tour. And I heard this is your first podcast round.
It's so good to be on your show. This is definitely a first.
Beautiful. So you know what? I wanted to make sure that, your street cred was well known. And I am super excited because I was first introduced to Miss Jessie's when my sister actually went to Howard. And she was like, yeah, I'm using curly pudding. And I was like, oh, did you make that? Like, what is curly pudding? And she was like, no, I bought it. And she was like, it's pretty pricey, so I know it's going to work for my hair. And I was like, really? And she said pretty pricey because we grew up less fortunate. And she was like, oh, I'm investing. And I was like, okay, this is great. So she brought some home over the summer break, and I was like, okay, well, let me try it. So she applied, the product to my hair and did a 2-strand twist. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I am in love. And it's so funny because we had been natural our entire lives.
Really?
We're not allowed to have perms at all. But your product most definitely changed the game for us.
Oh my God, that makes me know that what we did, my sister Titi and I, what we did together was worth it. So thank you for using Miss Jessie's.
Of course. So, so many people are familiar with the success story of Miss Jessie's, but what's the story behind you following your heart?
So following my heart is very closely connected with me following my passion. In my family growing up, I got the feeling that choosing a career in the beauty business wasn't especially celebrated or wouldn't be celebrated. So I really had to step out and gather the courage to be able to do the things that I truly loved. You see, Lydia, I was always good at doing hair growing up. I grew up in Queens, New York. And when it came time for me to choose a career, after, just dabbling in a little bit of this and a little bit of that, I realized that I need to focus on something that I loved. So thank God, thank God for God-given talents, because there would be no Miss
Yes.
Jessie's or, the wonderful partnership I had with my sister without the talent and contribution.
That is beautiful. And, at what point in your business journey did you realize that you were going to push past boundaries? I've read the story of you being in your kitchen with your sister and being in your brownstone, but when did you have that light bulb moment that you were going to make a mark on this industry?
Well, it was kind of a natural progression, because my sister Titi and I had started together in business in 1996, really a few years before we opened our first salon together in 1997. My sister was actually my rep. Titi would call every single person in New York, and she wanted to know if they needed a hairstylist. And finally, yeah.
Wow.
And finally, it was Ashley Stewart who they needed some hair work, and I worked for 1 week and I made $8,000. So, yeah,
Wow.
that became our seed money for our salon, and we opened it and we had success very early. But we ended up losing our business very early as well, and being able to push past the early challenges were extremely challenging, particularly for me, because at the time I was pregnant and I knew I was going to be a single parent. So there was just a lot of pressure on me, and I really felt like I could not afford to not try to win. So that was, a combination of everything going on that put me in the position where, I felt like I had nothing to lose but to just go for mine. And that's exactly what I did in the late 1990s.
What you said is so profound, and it's really chilling, and it really brings me to a chapter in your book, chapter
Mm-hmm.
6. In your book, I am a proud owner of your book,
Thank
Creating a
you.
Successful Business from Scratch Naturally, by you and your sister Titi
Mm.
Branch. And it brings me to page 116. It's one of my favorite quotes from the book. It says, "Turn crisis into opportunity. There's no better time to take a risk than when you have nothing to lose."
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. During the time, Titi and I, we had lost much of our clientele that we gained in our first salon, because we'd moved our business to the hood. We were
Mm,
our proud owners of a brownstone in the Bedford-Stuyvesant section of Brooklyn. But honestly, in 1999, Bed-Stuy was still known as the hood.
hmm.
And we were lucky if, a handful of our clients followed us. And luckily, a very small group did. And, our mortgage was due. And we just really had to pay attention to the next opportunity, even though we didn't know what it was. But the next opportunity actually came in the form of bath time with me and my son on the fourth floor of the brownstone. As I gave him baths, it was very important for me to be in his life. So if you wanted to get your hair done, you had to come to our brownstone. He splashed all around at bath time, Lydia. I could no longer maintain my hair in a straight style, so I had to embrace what our hair does when water hits it. And ironically,
Right.
that's what started the conversation, which, very quickly became our opportunity.
I love it. We say the shrinkage is real.
Yes, it is.
Especially when that water hits, it's like, oh my gosh.
Well,
I thought I looked one way, and now I just came out and we're having like this great Frederick Douglass moment.
mm-hmm.
I love how you turned that into your business. And I have to ask you, you've been doing what you've been doing for a instrumental amount of time. Can you talk about what you learned in that process of, getting your hair wet, starting an incredible business, losing your business, and then having to, start all over again? So, like the ebbs and
Mm-hmm.
flows.
So, as an entrepreneur, I think many would agree with me that it's never just one way. You can never rely on the pace to be a steady pace, whether it's a steady bad pace or a steady good pace. It goes up and down, and there's definitely hills and valleys. That's certainly been the case for us, myself and my sister together, but also for me as an entrepreneur singularly. My journey as an entrepreneur continues. And, I wouldn't trade it for the world, but it's certainly uncertain. I honestly got to tell you, out of the many lessons learned, one of the things that I learned and that is still true to me is that business really, it makes you really square off with who you are personally. And a lot of us don't. We just can't fathom that the practice of business or being an entrepreneur would give you some aha moments with yourself personally. And I've seen it in myself, and I've also seen it in my sister. And when I see other business people, I imagine that business really kind of deconstructs and exposes you for what you are, and then also for what you're not. I might have had this impression of myself that I'm one way, but you really get tested in many different ways in business, and you really get a chance to see yourself in real time, react, respond, create, do many things. And I'm sure it's hard for many people, including myself, to walk away feeling like we don't understand ourselves better after witnessing how we handle certain situations.
That's really good. This is called to Get My Life Tour. We talk about taking center stage in our lives and really showing up for ourselves. So, my question to you is, how has showing up for yourself helped you sustain your business, especially given the point you just made?
Showing up for myself, I think, would be the mantra for myself personally, and then also for Miss Jessie's. Miss Jessie's is an extension of who I am personally, what I'm made of, and it's also an extension of who Titi is, because when I think of Titi, Titi's still here with me in spirit. But Miss Jessie's is a direct expression of who we are. Showing up for ourselves, the word that comes to mind would be courage, and having the courage to be able to be your own boss. And in being your own boss, not only being around for the successes and the good times, but also being around when the failures come. And the failures, many as they have been, they've come around to our doorstep. And just being able to, again, have the courage to get back up, get back on the horse after failures, after heartbreak, after death, after so many things. Yes. I get a chance to see myself, carry myself in a particular way. And, it hasn't been easy, but I can definitely say I'm proud of my efforts, not really sure, what the fruit will be, but I'm certainly proud of my efforts in the journey of how I'm handling things as they come. So that's what showing up means for me and my brand.
That's absolutely beautiful. And I absolutely appreciate the way that you keep TT alive in spirit. I've watched so many interviews with you, and I've been following you for a while now, and I just love everything that you stand for. And I know that you wrote your book, Miss Jessie's Creating Successful Business from Scratch Naturally with TT. Mm-hmm. What was it like co-authoring that book with your sister? And what have you learned since becoming an author?
I've learned so much about myself because in telling your story or in telling my story, I really got a chance to replay my life. And before I'd really been acquainted with just going to a therapist, hearing yourself talk out what happened, the events that took place, I think is a very healing and a very necessary process for everyone. Luckily I got a chance to do it in the writing of my book, but I actually think that it's a wonderful process that everyone should experience because there's so many lessons tucked in when you just hear yourself replay things back. Mm-hmm. Early in 2013, my sister and I we were in the city, and my sister thought that our work wasn't done in our business. And at the time, we were so immersed in products and coming out with new stuff. And I asked her, well, why do you think we're not good? And she said, well, we're influencers, in the areas of hair. We've witnessed, primarily women embrace what God gave them naturally, and
Mm-hmm.
embrace their natural hair. And she thought that if we can influence people to make that move, which for some of us it's a very sensitive move.
It
She thought
is.
that we could use that same influence to inspire others to be their own bosses and to become entrepreneurs. But, she, like me, thought that, many people don't learn textbook style. Many people may be a
Yeah.
better learner in color. So she thought that if we told our story and shared our story, that people would get it, they would be inspired, and then they would just go out and do it. So that was the concept of our book. But in the makings of our book, my sister and I experienced a lot of highs and lows. Some days we
Mm-hmm.
were laughing, some days we were crying, some days we weren't getting along, but all throughout those, the experience that we had together, they were real experiences. And I'm just so happy that I had that opportunity to experience my sister in, a holistic way, in every single way. Whether she was my best friend, whether she was my sister, whether she was my big sister, whether she was my business partner, and even, a co-parent to my son. So shout out to Titi.
That Yes, shout out to TT. And I have to say that reading about you all sharing space, co-parenting, like you just mentioned, and even clothes
Mm-hmm.
was such a beautiful experience for me. There are so many women who, rely on sisterhood so heavily. But the way that you all were able to share with us in your book was so profound. I was really touched. I was like, wow, these women have really gone through the fire to be successful. And I also have to say that you both were ahead of your time. No one was really saying the word influencer in the early
Mm-hmm.
2000s. And now we're seeing more of Black women who own beauty brands step up to the plate
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurially to educate and inform other women. But that's now. The fact that you all were having that conversation in 2013, and I'm sure prior to that, it just shows why Miss Jessie's is the staple that it is.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. And you are a boss. You're the CEO of your business. But I want to know, what work do you do on a daily basis to be the best CEO of your life?
I understand all of the hard work, all of the grit, all the sacrifices that were made in order for Miss Jesse's to be this beloved brand. It didn't happen overnight, and my sister and I had to pave the way and, in some cases, many cases, blaze out the trail for the others that came behind us. And, that's a lot of wear and tear, on the pioneers. And it's a proud position that my sister and I are honored to hold. But it's certainly, it chips away, at the first.
Mm-hmm.
Who were able to do it. But to be the best CEO with the training that I've had, I have this desire to keep the legacy going because so much was put into it. But then, as a partner in business, that was one experience which was robust, very interactive. But I'm also having another experience as a single person in business, and the buck truly does stop with me because we're not, we still are privately owned. We don't have any investors. So, just being a CEO is just something that kind of has aligned with my personality. And I'm taking on the responsibility and just owning the space of being the boss as it relates to my company. And it feels good. I'm feeling like I'm a grown up now, a 100% grown woman. And, it's a lonely place because everyone, can't relate to some of the decisions that have to be made. But I think at this point, I probably wouldn't trade my post or position with anything, for anything, or with anyone because this brand is just so personal and it just has, my sister and myself written all over it.
Yes, and you've done so much of the work. people are listening to this podcast because they are on this journey to getting their lives and showing up for themselves. So I have to ask, what advice do you have for women and mothers who have the desire to start a business
I
themselves?
think now that we live in the internet age with so much information readily available, I encourage them to research it as much as they can. But I really do believe in the doing of it, in that if you do it, there's so many lessons to be learned. And you might be surprised how successful you can be or will be if you just get it started, you know? And the other side of
Mm-hmm.
that, being able to go out there and just do it is being able to embrace any failures. I guarantee you that when the failures come, whether how big or how small they are, they'll be memorable because they're just so personal to the business building, that you're embarking in. So, the doing of it is something that I highly recommend. And it'll let you know if this is something that you want to continue doing. Being an entrepreneur is not for everyone. Although Titi and I, we shared our story, and I tell this story to inspire others. It's something that everyone should try. But if you try it and you don't like it, it's okay. There's something really wonderful about being able to go to work, get a paycheck, and not worry about what happens after 5 p.m. You know. But
Yeah.
yeah, but definitely go out and do it.
I love it. I love the can do attitude.
Hmm.
Getting our lives is so important. I tell people my get my life story all the time. I was very unhappy in the workplace. And while I didn't leap to entrepreneurship, I leapt to getting the resources that I needed to practice, holistic living, being well. So I was making sure I made my appointments, with my doctor, with my physical therapist, with a chiropractor, because so many things showed up in me differently as far as stress. And getting our lives is so important. Can you speak about a moment where you felt like you had to get your life, quote unquote, and how you handled that?
Yeah, so there's been many times in my life where I felt like I had to get my life. And they usually come in the scarier moments, in my moments of panic, moments of uncertainty. And two moments come to mind. When I found that I was pregnant with my son, I knew that I wasn't going to be together with his dad. But just embarking on motherhood was extremely scary for me. But I just had this wonderful and strong connection with my son, so pushing through the fears in order to experience the joys, or the challenge of being a mom was certainly something that stands out to me. And, I felt like I had to really rise to the occasion. Honestly, there wouldn't be a Miss Jessie's had it not been, for, the maturation process that happened, internally. That was one thing. And then, another period comes to mind, when my sister passed away, really having to rise to the occasion and just stepping up to the plate, those are the two experiences that come to mind.
Thank you so much for sharing and for your vulnerability and for being so transparent. It's most definitely something that I admire about you. We read these headlines about things that happen in people's lives, and some people are so quick to label, those situations. But your ability to speak so openly about events that have happened in your life is really admirable, and it's also very inspiring to practice vulnerability.
If we were going to tell a story, it was very deliberate for us to tell our real story. I think when people think of Miss Jessie, they think of this groundbreaking product and all these wonderful things which we're extremely proud of. But in telling our story, we thought that people should understand the other side of it. The times when it didn't feel so pretty, the times when we were really exposed and scared, kind of revealing that side of it in the same way that we present the glamour of it all. We thought that with that balance that people could really make an informed choice on what they wanted to do. So, with that desire with the book, I've learned to really carry that out in, other areas in my life. And I find that when I approach things that way, it really just sets me free. There's just being as honest as I can be.
I love it. You know, we have this segment called the mic drop. Everyone loves the gif of Barack Obama dropping the mic, or that moment in Coming to America where Sexual Chocolate like steps back and throws his arm open. Like, talk about doing it for the culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what has been a mic drop moment for you in life that others can learn from?
Oh my God, a mic drop moment. I think the day that I realized that I don't have to make excuses or apologize for who I am. And I think the day that I realized that I'm grown, and whatever I do, whether it's good or whether it's bad, they're my experiences, and I can share them, or not share them. But I realize that my judge is God, and He lets me know what are your next moves, or how did you like the moves that you made, and what can be learned from that. Like, my interaction with Him is really kind of anchoring me in the right way. But, like, my maturation process didn't really come full circle until I knew that God had my back. So my mic drop moment was when I realized, and I'm sounding this out and feeling my way through this question. My mic drop moment was when I realized that I don't have to worry about anything, because whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's ugly, whether it's sad, God has my back, so I'm good.
And there it is. I love it. God's got you. And I have to ask, what advice do you have for women to help them practice show up for themselves in every area of their lives?
I think two words come to mind, and self-love, and having the confidence to make the decisions that you feel are best for you. I think that combination is a wonderful way to navigate through any waters, turbulent waters, uncertain waters. I think those two those two are killer for me. And I think any woman can succeed or even figure it out if she operates from a place of self-love and operates from a place of confidence, even when she doesn't know what to do. She knows that she's going to figure it out.
I've said it once and I am going to say it again. You are exceptional, Miko. I am so glad that you decided to come on tour with us and take center stage. You dropped the mic, you dropped many gems and jewels, and you have shown up for yourself in ways unimaginable. Thank you so much for being here with
It is
us.
my pleasure. And it's so funny. My dad used the word exceptional, and he used to tell my sister and I that we were exceptional. Even on the days that we didn't feel pretty, even on the days that we didn't feel great, my dad used to tell us that we were exceptional. Even on the days that he was yelling at us, he would find a
Oh,
way to
wow.
tell us that we were exceptional. And, I really have to tell you, now that I'm a mother, those words have a lot of weight. Words mean a lot.
Mhm.
And just, those loving words, those encouraging words from a very early age, it really does resonate and stick with you. And I really appreciate you telling me that you think I'm exceptional. And the good news is that it's a word that I've aligned with way before I was told that by you, or other people who have told me that. It's because I got it from home, and then eventually I began to believe it myself. So that self-love is real important. And, for all the mothers, or for, anyone, out here, we just really want to spread love like that, because I believe if we're feeling good, we can do good.
You are so welcome, and you dropped the mic yet again. Like, you just keep picking up the mic and dropping it, Miko.
Thank you. Thank you.
You are awesome. If you want to know more about Miko Branch and Miss Jessie's, all you have to do is go to missjessies.com. And if you're interested in reading the book that I've read, Miss Jessie's Creating a Successful Business from Scratch Naturally by Miko and Titi Branch, pick it up. It is on Amazon, it is online, and be sure to follow Miko Branch on social media and Miss Jessie's the brand. Miko, thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to the world hearing from
Thank
you.
you, Lydia. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show. And I have to tell you, you are exceptional. And, your example of, your leadership and your own platform is really impressive. So I'm just honored and proud to share this moment with you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm smiling ear to ear. You just made my heart smile as well.
Thank you. Thank you.